So I thought that maybe I should talk about how HBS has been in fact addressing this potential problem of leaders which HBS created, and how HBS has been trying to, has been changing its curriculum to address those issues over the past 15 years or so. And also, as the title shows, I'd like to touch upon slightly on how US business schools in general have been also trying to address some potential issues that the business school have not been able to address sufficiently. By the way, Japan Research Center of the school was created in 2002, and our role, we have two missions. One is to help our faculty in Boston to do research and case writing on Japanese companies and Japanese economy. And the second mission is to do other things which are good for the school, like today's opportunity to talk about our education in MBA. And the school has a regional research centers in 8 locations. So Japan, Tokyo for Japan, Shanghai for China, and Hong Kong for the region, rest of China and Japan. And we have Mumbai for South Asia, particularly covering India, and Istanbul to cover Middle East, and Paris for Europe, and 2 locations in Latin America, Buenos Aires and Sao Paulo, to cover entire Latin America. And within the States, we also have a California Research Center based in Silicon Valley. And the school started what we call global initiative back in 1996 to increase global contents in our faculty's academic research and cases. So it started almost 20 years ago. At that time, less than 20% of our cases were global in nature. But now, close to 60% of our cases are global in nature. Global means either about non-US companies or US companies operating outside the United States, like an American company operating in Japan, China, India, etc. And the school produces about 300 new cases every year. And as I said, about 60% of that 300 cases are global. So we are not, although we are a US business school, we are not teaching only US best practices, but really we are teaching global best practices and also what is really going on a global scene. So today, I'd like to talk about changes in our leadership education, and then talking about US Business School education changes. So HBS, many of you might know, has a history of more than, we were established in 1908. And so it's a more than 100-year history. We have very clear mission, as I will talk about in more detail later. So our mission is we educate leaders who make a difference in the world. And as a pedagogy, we have been using what we call case method. And this was applied in full from 1925. So whenever people think about HBS, people think it's a purely case method teaching. And this is true. However, we introduced a new pedagogy 4 years ago, which I will explain in more details later. And our MBA is a 2-year full-time program. So we do not have a 1-year program or part-time programs. Just, although many business schools have been introducing part-time or 1-year shorter MBA programs. But we feel that we definitely need 2 years to change our students to give transformational experiences to our students. So we are really committed to that. And 1/3 is of the students, 900 students per year, and about 1/3 are from outside US. So it is still, US business school, but we have, in fact, close to 40% are non-American students. So we have a diverse body of students coming from more than 80 countries. In addition to MBA, we have what we call executive education for business executives, government officers, etc. And as many as 10,000 senior people participate in our executive education program per year. So we are giving influence not only through MBA, but also directly through existing leaders. MBA is to create future leaders, but these executive education programs are targeted toward existing incumbent leaders because obviously it is important to make impact on the existing leaders as well. And our current dean is Nitin Noria. He took the position 5 years ago, and he's the 10th dean over the 100-year history. So our dean is expected to be in the position for 10 years or so on average. And he is the first dean from outside North America. So previous 9 deans, 8 came from United States and 1 came from Canada. So he's the first dean. He's from India, so he's the first dean from outside North America. And he's making a lot of changes in our curriculum, in other initiatives. Like we introduced a online course called HBX last year. And many people were wondering why HBS didn't go into online education earlier, but we wanted to see how things develop, and we wanted to develop completely new online program. And so we launched it from last year, and it was developed from scratch. And participants have to pay for that, unlike MOOCs. And the completion ratio of our online program is more than 90%, while MOOC's completion ratio is like a 2 or 3%. So we feel it's, we created completely a new paradigm of online program under the leadership of our new dean, Nitin. So this is an overview of the school in Boston. And in terms of budget, we have more than $6 billion per year. So it's I think it's a very, very big school. And we have different revenue sources: MBA, executive education, publishing, endowment. And MBA, although we are best known for MBA program, we are in fact losing money in MBA if we allocate all the necessary costs. And so we are making, I can't say profit because we are NPO, but above break-even point from executive education and publishing. So the mission, which is as I said, we've been changing. The school has been introducing a lot of changes and new initiatives, but mission has remained the same. So our mission is to educate leaders who make a difference in the world. Leaders, we define individuals with competence and character who earn others' trust. And this is very important, who earn others' trust, because our alumni historically tended to think, because they are graduates from HBS, they are already leaders, so people should respect them as leaders. So our alumni tend to be rather arrogant, I must say. But knitting has been trying to change that a lot. Our knitting has been telling our students that you can only become leaders when other people respect you as a leader. So our students cannot call themselves leaders just because they're alumni of HBS. And we're trying to teach our students to become much more humble, to think about the society, as mentioned here. So difference here means creating value for society in a wide range of leadership roles. So in our education, we are teaching importance of paying attention to the society. And we do not teach our students to say that you have a fiduciary responsibility to always maximize shareholders' return. We are saying that is not fiduciary duty of leaders. We are saying that we have fiduciary duty for corporation, which comprises of not only shareholders, but also employees, customers, and societies. So we are trying to teach our students to pay attention to a lot of stakeholders, not for short-term profit. That was, as you know, short-termism was one of the reasons for the causes of a world financial crisis. And I will talk about it later in more detail. In the world, so addressing the world's most challenging issues where business must play a vital role, our faculty is now teaching our students saying that, what is your goal? Is your goal just to have a better life financially? Or is your goal try to solve some social issues, to try to make a positive impact on the society? Our faculty raises that question repeatedly in our MBA classroom. And so our students really forced to think about what would be their goal after HBS. And obviously, we try to educate. So through education programs grounded in faculty research and by communicating the world's best thinking. Our faculty produces more than 200 academic journals per year. It is quoted, rated as one of the top 3 in terms of business school, in terms of academic research. So our teaching is obviously based on faculty research, a very rigorous faculty research. And although some of our faculty do come from business background, like former CEO of large company, multinational company, in the industrial sector or pharmaceutical sector, et cetera. But they also have to do a lot of research. And so we teach very much depend on faculty research. So how do we achieve this mission of the school? One is by giving transformation experiences. And I think there is a kind of image that business school teaches only technical skills. But that is not the case at our school. We really try to teach not just technical skills, but also behavioral and attitude changes. And as I said, our students are often asked about what would be your goal, and what can you contribute, how you can contribute to the society. And also, by having a globally diversified a body of students, they interact with our students in a classroom and outside classroom, and they learn from each other, and they learn what's going on in Africa, and they learn what is going on in China or Latin America or in Japan, and they really develop a global perspectives. And that through, when they come to our school, they have some kind of idea what they want to do after school. But after 2 years, many students change what they want to do after the school because of these transformational experiences. I don't know whether this is a word coined by HBS, but we call participant-centered learning. It's So, it's not a teacher-centered. It's really student-centered learning we provide. And this is a focus on learning and not teaching. What does it mean? Teachers have temptation to try to teach everything, regardless of whether students are learning from that. But our focus is really try to understand whether our students are learning from our classes. So our faculty spend a lot of time to prepare for the classrooms. Even senior faculty, when he or she teaches a case for the first time, he or she spends 15 hours to prepare for the classroom to teach that particular case. So our faculty spend not only a lot of time on research, but also a lot of time on teaching. So our teachers are passionate about teaching with a focus on learning. And the second point is a focus on discovering, not uncovering. So in education, we tend to teach, as I say, in many things, but and try to teach everything from A to Z. But our approach is very different. Like a case method. Students learn from case discussion. So our faculty do not teach you theories first or framework first, because then students get temptation to apply the theory or framework to understand the particular case. But our approach is different. We give case to students first, and students have to struggle to understand what is issues in the case. How do we diagnose problems of in the case, and try to come up with a solution based upon their own thinking, experience, knowledge. And under the moderation, facilitation of our faculty, students discuss. In each case, there are usually 3 or 4 topics to cover. So our faculty try to moderate discussion to cover 3 or 4 topics. And through discussion of these 3 or 4 topics, students learn from each other. Oh, this is the point we have to think about. This is the important angle that was missing in my analysis. And at the end of class, our faculty gives a kind of framework or theoretical background to think about or analyze the case. So it's really through discovery. I understand that other business schools, even if they use case method, they approach case method very differently. For example, I understand that at Stanford Business School, professors teach the students theories first and use a case to apply that particular theory. But in our case, as I said, we don't teach a theory first. It's a really the reverse way. So our case method teaching is, in a sense, very unique, because we want to give a student to learn through discovery, because students do not forget what they learn through discovery, which has been academically proven. So pedagogy, as I said, we use case method, and I will explain more detailed field, which is not based upon case method. And this field is a new course in our MBA curriculum, introduced 4 years ago. In order to address issues that HBS education kind of created, or issues that have not been met by our existing education, we introduced 2 big changes, at least in our view, over the past 15 years or so. One is an introduction of a new course called, with focus on ethics and legality. And this course is called Leadership and Corporate Accountability. And the next one is a field 4 years ago. So let me talk about these in more detail. So this leadership and corporate accountability with focus on ethics and legality, we had a very rigorous process to introduce this new course, because this is a required curriculum course to be taught in the first year. And because required curriculum courses are taken by all 900 students in the first year, we cannot just introduce a course and try it. If it doesn't work, we get rid of it. We can't do that. We are very committed to introduce a very good course in the first year curriculum. And what is interesting is that, so it really started in 2000, and it was introduced 2003, so it took 3 years. And what is interesting is that the working group of 8 faculty members include Nitin Noria, our current dean. By the way, Nitin Noria is expert on excellent scholar on leadership. So he's been studying leadership, and he's been thinking about how leadership should be taught in our course. So why we introduced this course? To address what we call gray area problems. Where we say combination of competing responsibilities to investors, customers, employees, society, and often they can be competing responsibilities. And sometimes, when leaders have to make a decision, we have to deal with ambiguous standards. There may not be clear standards within a company, or within a society, or within a specific country context. And when leaders have to make a decision, he or she may not have all the facts. They have to make a decision under intense time pressures. And how do we deal with these in the best possible, to provide the best possible solution? And you can't really delegate these responsibilities for gray areas, because usually these problems are on high stake. So you cannot delegate them to junior people. So framework is, as I mentioned, we call 3 lenses: economic lens, ethical lens, legal lens. And we have to analyze responsibility. So what is your responsibility? Is your responsibility talking about the investors? Is that only? Or does it include responsibility to customers, employees? So our students are really asked to analyze responsibilities. Where do they fall to? And what is the nature of a responsibility? Is it only economic responsibility? Does it include ethical responsibility or legal responsibility? So economic responsibility, legal responsibility, ethical responsibility. If you can make a decision which falls onto this sweet spot, that's ideal, right? Because it meets all the 3 responsibilities at the same time. But in reality, particularly in a business situation, this is not always the case. Sometimes it may meet only this area, which is only economic responsibility, legal responsibility, but missing ethical responsibility. In that situation, what would you do? And even, it could be on the borderline. And how you make a judgment on that. We are not teaching our students what should be your value, what should be your ethical standard. But what we are teaching is to find out where your value stands in a broad range of your value system in ethical or legal, so that you understand, each student understands where his or her value stands in this broad range in ethical scale or legal scale. Because often managers make an unconscious decision based upon his or her value system. So our teaching is to help our students to realize where your value stands and question whether you need to change that value in the value chain, so that when they graduate from the school, they can better handle what we call gray areas. So as I said, what are my values? This is very important. Why? As I said, because managers have to make judgments about particular situations, and there are no formulas or algorithms for answering questions of gray area problems. What is decisive in the end is a manager's judgment shaped by his/her experience and personal values. And also, resolving gray area issues can be a long, hard struggle. Managers need to know who they are, what they really care about. Otherwise, they might not have the grit, persistence, and courage they need to take on, struggle with, and resolve hard gray area challenges. So what this is saying that, once you make a decision, you have to commit to your decision, right? And you have to complete your decision and plan of action. But if you're not committed, you may fall apart, which could create even bigger problems in your organization. So what we're teaching is that you really need to think about your value, and you really have to commit yourself once you make a decision to solve gray area issues. This course was introduced 2003 or 4. And CEO of Lehman Brothers did not take this course. And CEO of Enron did not take this course. And I did not take this course because I went to school 30 years ago. At that time, there was no courses on ethics. So we do hope that the students who started taking this course will be better leaders who would not create another world financial crisis or another Enron scandal. And so this is the second big change we made at the school over the past 15 years. This course is called FIELD, which sounds very strange. It stands for Field Immersion Experiences for Leadership Development. Maybe you don't understand what really means. I'll talk about later. But this program was started to fill the gap, what we call gap between knowledge, knowing, and practice doing. Case method teaching is not just knowing, but it has a part of doing, because in the classroom, students are asked, what would you do? Students are asked not only to analyze problems, but also asked to come up with a plan of action to solve that problem. So it has a component of doing compared with pure lectures, but obviously, because it's in a classroom, you cannot actually do it, implement it. So there is a still gap between knowledge or knowing and practice doing. Why we introduced this new course, which is not based on case method? As I said, case method has been the core of HBS education for more than 100 years. But why we decided to introduce a new course which is not based on case method? There's a lot of background for that. And in fact, in late 2000, not only HBS but also other business schools conducted reviews and self-reflection of MBA education. And we interviewed management and recruiters, and they really criticized MBA education as being biased to too much knowing. So, too much analysis. So they said that, you need to make a balance between knowing, doing, and being. So, should place greater emphasis on doing and being. By the being means philosophy and self-awareness. in the most of the MBA education, we did not teach philosophy, or we did not teach about self-awareness. So students graduate of school without knowing who they are. And we felt that, I mean, not just we, but many business schools felt that that could be a problem. So new pedagogy was necessary, not lectures, not just case method. By the way, there is a book written by a faculty called From Rethinking the MBA, Business Education at a Crossroad, in the year 2010. So if you're interested in MBA education, this is a very good book to read. So another background is obviously financial crisis. And this is he's the most senior faculty member, Jay Losh. And he said, we became, as suppliers of ideas and talent to the business community, business schools need to accept some responsibility. We must define business leadership in terms of value creation and not value extraction. Rakesh Khurana, Professor Rakesh Khurana, he said, to regain society's trust, we believe that business leaders must embrace a way of looking at their role that goes beyond their responsibility to the shareholders, to include a civic and personal commitment to their duty as institution custodians. And our Dean Nitin said, when business schools were first created, the purpose of them was to create a class of business professionals who had an identity very much like doctors and lawyers did. I felt that business education had lost this original animating purpose. Another professor said, some of HBS cases have delved into problem sets narrowly designed to teach technical skills rather than place those skills in a broader company and industry context. So many of our faculty came up with kind of self-criticism. And our Dean Nitin, obviously, he also had very sense of crisis about whether HBS can continue the way it had been. So, and Nitin, fortunately, became our 10th dean, as I said, 4 years ago. So he decided we should do, from knower to doer, emphasis on judgment, humbleness, and values. This is being. And emphasis on global, especially emerging countries. And to realize all these things, he introduced the program called Field, which is not based upon the case method. So this is the first major reform in our 100-year HBS history. And in fact, when Dean introduced this concept to our faculty, not all faculty agree to this concept. But Nitin spent a lot of time to persuade all the faculty members to accept this idea, to get their buy-in. And just 1 year after, or I would say maybe several months after Nitin became the dean and came up with this idea at a faculty meeting, our faculty approved this idea. So it was very, very quick. And this field program was introduced in the second year after Nitin became the dean. So it was a very, very quick move. So this program runs entire year, unlike traditional case method programs, which run only either fall or in spring. And it has 3 modules. Module 1, Leadership Intelligence. Module 2, Global Intelligence. Module 3, Integrative Intelligence. So this runs September to December. And although it says January, it in fact runs from October. So overlaps with Field 1 to end of January. So what are these? So in the Module 1, It's about observation and exercise of own leadership. They make a group of 6 students, assigned group, and they have to do a lot of exercise, and they get a feedback from the other members of the group. And that gives a self-reflection, and professional coaches come in to teach our students to improve their communication style, leadership style, etc. And this is to strengthen emotional intelligence and raise awareness of own leadership style. You know, many of our students come with a very strong academic background, so they have very strong what we call IQ, intelligence, side, but they are not necessarily strong in emotional intelligence, communication, for example, empathy to others. So this helps to raise that. And our students historically, as I said, became kind of arrogant. They feel they can do anything they want to do. And in the first job after HBS, many people failed because they had that kind of arrogance, lacked in humbleness. They didn't know who they are. So this program helps them to be better, start in the first job after HBS. And this global intelligence, this is very interesting because all 900 students, again grouped into 6 students assigned by the school, all of them basically go outside Boston, outside the United States, to emerging countries. And each group is assigned a local partner in emerging country to help them develop either new product or new service in B2C area. And the students submit preference of countries in September. And by the way, they cannot choose a country where they're from or they have been to. So they have to pick up emerging country where they have never been to. This is because we want students opportunity to really understand and feel and experience that things can be very different from one country to another. So we pick up 140 companies, local partners. They are either local companies or local operation of multinational companies. And thanks to our alumni network, and thanks to recruiters, we have been able to identify these 140 companies every year. So what students do, as I said, in October, they assign a specific country and specific local partner. And each group has to talk to, so study about the country, study about the industry of local partner, and study about the project. And they communicate with local partner during October to December. And they are taught design thinking. So they have to, while they're in Boston, they have to go to streets to try to develop prototype by talking to potential customers in Boston area, which is different from, obviously, the emerging country, but they have to do that. Then, in January, they fly into cities and meet with a local partner and present their idea of either a new product or new service. And most of the ideas are rejected by local partners because they did not have sufficient understanding of different contexts in a particular city or particular emerging country. So from the second day, they have to go against the streets, talk to potential customers, or even visit families to see how their product is used. And they have to work very hard because they stay there only 1 week. And on the last day, they go back to the local partner again and present new idea of new product or new services. And very surprisingly, 99% of these local partners ask our students come back in the second year, again. So meaning that our students have, changed their idea very well, even within such short period of time, and satisfied our local partners. And we are doing this program already 4 years. And as I said, 99% of local partners have been happy. And so this is to learn from cross-culture experience and design thinking. So this is very different from case method. And then the last one, what we call Field 3, from February to May. And again, students are asked to make a group of 6 students. They can choose their partners, in fact, this time. And their mission is to come up with a startup business idea. But they have to, their goal is to generate at least $1 revenue. It's not easy because they have only, 3 or 4 months. But anyway, they try. And in fact, many teams fall apart, do not succeed. But that is within the expectation of the school. The purpose of this one is what we integrative intelligence. So the students have to integrate what they have learned so far. But another purpose of this module is to give students to fail in what we call safe environment. Because students who failed in the project can still get a good grade by writing good report, what you learn from the failure. And why they fail? One is that our students do not know how to collaborate in a flat team of 6 students. There is no president of the team, right? So they have to work on an equal basis. And secondly, they probably didn't worked as a team before. Usually our students have very good as individual contributor, like as consultant, investment banker, etc. But they do not necessarily have experience because they're young. They come like at age of 25, 26, 27. So they really didn't have responsible job in a team. And by the way, each team gets $5,000 of cash to start the business. So that said, this is to learn from failure. So now the students tell us that they cannot think of our MBA program without a field. So until 5 years ago, there was no field. But now students say, who have experienced field, say, they cannot think of HBS without this field. So it seems to be successful, although we have been making improvements. We learn every year, feedback from local partners, feedback from students, and we have been making some adjustment of all these modules. So this field again, this is a beyond the case classroom case discussion, and try to teach our students to think about themselves, to become more humble, to understand what is collaboration, across different ethnics in a completely different environment through really experience and immersion. And so this is, by the way, this is where they went to. Like went to China, Vietnam. This year, January, they went to China, Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, India, Turkey, Morocco, South Africa, Argentina, Brazil, and Peru, and Morocco. So as I said, these are all emerging countries. So they do not, unfortunately, come to Japan. I'm afraid I'm kind of running out of time, and I'm sorry that I have not been able to talk about changes at U.S. business schools in general. The business schools, other business schools have been changing a lot. And one thing which I want to show is that, global financial crisis, top 10 business schools, deans have changed, of course, including HBS. Stanford, HBS, Pennsylvania, Wharton, Booth, etc. And what I want to show is that this is the previous deans and their academic area. This is the current deans, the academic area. And previous deans, you look at the academic areas: finance, economics, corporate finance, right? This means that not only HBS is also finance. Business school in the States have a lot of emphasis on finance and economics because students wanted to go to investment banking, private equity, etc., etc. But now, so entrepreneurship, economics is one, right? Economics, finance here, 2, finance 3, only 4 out of 10 current deans come with an academic background in finance or economics. Others are organization behavior, management, private enterprise, operations, marketing, organization, etc. So this reflects how yes, business schools have been trying to change themselves. So change of dean's background is a kind of symbol of the changes they're trying to make. I think I ran out of time and cannot talk much more about it, but thank you very much for your attention and patience for listening to my presentation. Thank you.